All right. I'm excited to be here today with my new friend, Chris Boshuizen. And Chris has a project called Dr. Chrispy. He's a physicist turned musician, a former astronaut whose music projects are deeply infused with exploration, innovation, and space aged imagination. In fact, we actually, as crazy as this sounds, we have music together, a couple of our songs that are actually floating through outer space across the universe with one of the members of the original Beatles, um, Ringo Starr, which is like a crazy way to introduce this topic. And maybe we'll have a chance to dive a little bit deeper into what does that even mean. But Chris, it's great to connect with you. Now for the podcast, and look forward to having a conversation to share a little bit more about your story and what your music stands for.
Thanks, Michael. It's really lovely to be here.
Awesome. So yeah, maybe you can do a little bit of a deeper dive into introducing yourself, and I would love to understand better about where this kind of cross section between space and future technology and peace and love and music started for you.
Yeah, I've always loved space and I've always loved music. It's always been a kind of a creative tension for me. As a kid, I got a telescope and I would look up to the stars, and I remember watching Carl Sagan, the original Cosmos TV show, and just being inspired by the universe. So space has just always had a pull for me. And then similarly for music, I kind of got into music through computer games. And I would borrow my friend's Commodore 64 or Commodore Amiga and actually try and write computer game music on it. So definitely both of those are like very nerdy dimensions of things. And so for music, for me, really was always kind of like about synthesizers and digital music. And at some point when I was, at university, I was like, oh man, I got to pick. And I was trying to like learn guitar and, rehearse 4 hours a day and, be a real musician. But I was also trying to write a PhD thesis in astrophysics, and like my head exploded and I had to like pick one. So I ended up becoming a professional physicist and engineer. And I think that worked out okay because I got to go to space, which is really, really cool. But now I'm like revisiting my music and some of the older stuff I wrote. And I found it's actually a great way to like tie the two together because I feel like I can share my feelings about space more authentically through song.
Cool. Oh man, that is awesome. I mean, very few people can say that they've been to outer space. I've heard that there's a special moment when you're looking down on Earth and you get perspective. There's maybe a phrase or a word for it, and you're like, wow, like all of our problems and issues are like in this little this little ball. Could you share more about that? Like, what's the name for that? And did you?
Yeah, I
have
think
that
you're
experience?
referring to the overview effect. Which is a term coined by author Frank White, who actually has interviewed most flown astronauts. And so that is a very common experience for many space flights, particularly the early ones in the Apollo era and Gemini and Apollo and so on, where, we hadn't seen the Earth from space, right? And looking down on it and actually seeing how thin the atmosphere was relative to the diameter of the Earth and, seeing the continents without borders, it can be a very profound experience. I actually had a slightly different experience, which I talked to Frank about, which I called the outer view effect, which was when I looked out into the blackness of space. I almost felt like it was calling me. It was the spookiest, creepiest feeling, but kind of like creepy in the like powerful and potent and awe-inspiring way of like, whoa, what was that?
Yeah. I mean, when I think about outer space and I really sort of like look out into the stars and contemplate that, I feel like I have that sort of that feeling comes out. Like, what the heck is going on in a black hole? Like, wait, what? Like, hold on. There's so much that we don't understand. It's just so huge. It's so big. Curious to hear from your perspective as someone who's like so deeply involved in those different worlds now with with outer space and physics and music. I'm guessing that gives you some perspective to kind of draw certain links or parallels between them. I'm curious, have you had that experience where like how do those worlds blend together for you, and what do you think are some unique qualities to your music that you're able to bring to it because of your background in astrophysics?
Well, just like with my music, I do a lot of public speaking, and I've noticed that people listen to me differently now I've been to space. And it's not like they didn't listen before, but everybody has dreams, right? And we all have our own dreams. And when we hear other people's dreams, I think we kind of like take it lightly, particularly if you're on a stage talking about my dream is to go to space. Maybe that isn't necessarily convincing to everybody in the audience. It might resonate with some who have the same dream, but other people might walk out and go, seems a bit unbelievable. And I think that's a totally healthy reaction. But now that I've been, I notice that those same people now look at me and go, huh? What? I could? And I see the switch flick in their heads. And I'm like, whoa, that is a superpower that I did not have before I went to space. And so now I think I can just speak authentically to the experience, and seeing people realize that maybe space travel is accessible to them too. That's a really big game changer.
Yeah, it is super cool. It certainly seems like we're closer than ever right now to anyone who sincerely wants to go to outer space, like getting closer to what, like, quote unquote space tourism, or the ability to to be on a trip that goes out of orbit. What's the current landscape right now for, like, are there commercial like flights and things that if someone has like a is able to invest? I guess everything is like a matter of money, but well, not everything, but space travel feels like it is now.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
What is
I mean,
that?
this is a
What
big
is that
change,
situation?
right? I mean, the fact that
Yeah.
you can buy a ticket at all, and there's currently at least 2 operators that are flying, SpaceX and Blue Origin.
Okay.
And so, the fact that you can even buy a ticket, I mean, that might sound, again, like maybe, there's a lot of criticism about, oh, this is just for billionaires. But you got to remember, like, in the past, this was just for nation states, right? This took
Yeah.
the GDP of a country to do. So, you can fly to space on a suborbital flight now for about the price of a house in a good city. And okay, that's still a lot for most people, and that is not fully, that's not like a bus ticket, but it's not a nation state's GDP either. So,
Yeah. I mean, I try to have perspective when looking at, being on the edge of technology, with the fact that in our pockets, most of us carry a device that's more powerful than, what used to be costing millions and millions of dollars, and fill up an entire room. And now, like, almost anyone who wants, one of these devices can just have one. And it
yeah.
seems like an exciting future where anyone that wanted, like you mentioned, like a bus ticket to be able to go somewhere
Yeah.
like that might have an opportunity to.
Yeah, your phone is more than 1,000 times more powerful than a crazy supercomputer from the 80s, right? So,
Even for like perspective, I mean, I was trying to come back to this, like, as frequently as it doesn't disrupt my like normal life. The fact that, I don't know, 1,000 years ago, the most wealthy, king or queen in the world, compared to the quality of life that even like the floor has right now in most of the world, is just so like radically different. Like, the floor has raised so much compared to where things were a few hundred years ago. It's a pretty amazing time to be alive.
it is, right? Yeah. I mean, there's so much going on, and here we are blasting music out into space. I mean, that's like really cool.
Yeah. Maybe so. This is probably a good segue to talking about that experience. And so, could you share, for anyone who's listening to this right now, who, we talked a little bit about like Ringo Starr and music going to outer space. Could you share? I'd actually be curious to hear this from your perspective too, because this is actually our first time meeting personally. We're connected through our shared contact, Bob Richards, who
Yep.
was the reason that I was involved in the Ringo, his birthday party and that whole mission in the first place. Would love to hear your perspective, like how it came about for you, and for anyone that's listening to this right now who has no idea what we're talking about. Could you introduce the story?
Yeah. So, Bob, who you mentioned, Bob Richards, is an old space friend of mine. He actually used to his company used to sponsor a youth space conference that I helped organize in Vancouver back in 2004, so 21 years ago. And we've been friends ever since. Bob also is an avid music fan and supporter. Absolutely loves music, and so we have that in common as well. We also used to drive the same car, which is quite funny. So Bob, yeah, he was helping Ringo. What Ringo Starr wanted for his birthday this year was to do a mission for peace and love, and broadcast some music into space in the spirit of, you know, peace and love and human unity and connection. Um, and Bob thought some of my music would be suitable. I actually ended up, so I sent one of my songs, which is called Zero Gravity, which is about, you know, the sense of being in space, but realizing everyone you love is down here on Earth. Um, and I also sent a second song, which was from a dear friend of mine who sadly passed away 3 years ago, San Francisco-based trumpeter and singer named Rich Armstrong. And he had a beautiful, beautiful song that I sent, that was, you know, really totally on the theme. It's a song about karma and love and connection and looking down on the world and seeing that we're one. And so I thought that was actually probably the most fitting thing to send. So yeah, I sent Rich's song into space, and a little piece of him is out there somewhere.
Mm-hmm. That's beautiful. Yeah, it was a pretty special moment, you know, in Beverly Hills when we were celebrating Ringo's 85th birthday, and it really was like a full on mission space launch countdown, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and boom, sending the songs into outer space. And what I'm hearing you say is that, you know, you had two songs that you sent out, and that it was really around this theme of, you know, love and, you know, spreading peace and love, you know, across, you know, the earth, but also, you know, transmitting that across the universe as a potential way that, like, there's a non-zero chance that there could be other forms of intelligence, that one of the first things that they come across or see is actually the broadcast from the songs that you sent, and that the songs that we included in that mission. Just kind of radical to think about.
Yeah, no, it's like, it was such a beautiful playlist as well. So it was a real honor to sort of be part of it.
Absolutely. Yeah, we had sort of like a round circle listen party, you know, at the birthday party. We were listening through all the songs, and it was very cool to kind of have that shared mission or shared purpose of spreading peace and love. And very cool that Ringo just does this, you know, every year for his birthday, as it's a good reminder, and, you know, of course, very needed right now in the world to remember that message that you just shared, that we are one.
Yeah.
Did
he have a favorite? Did you notice?
Ringo?
Yeah.
He didn't say if one was his favorite, which is good. Probably not make anyone feel excluded. I mean, also, like, Ringo, you know, in full transparency, I feel like it was his 85th birthday party, and the dude he's Ringo's star. And so, like, you know, this is a time where there's a lot of moving parts and different things happening. In fact, gosh, I think when we did the countdown, you know, for his birthday, and we sent it, I'm trying to remember his exact words. We got him on video, and it made me chuckle. But he said something to the degree of, like, you know, and like, this is for, you know, all those like the space guys who are like, we're sending like our songs into outer space together. Yeah. And I was like, cool. Like, we are like the space guys, and you are the space guys.
Brilliant.
Yeah, it was awesome.
I look forward to our numbers growing. That's the main thing.
So maybe you could share a little bit more about your music, and, you know, what is it really that's kind of like driving your music right now, and are you still focused primarily on, you know, the astrophysicist? Like, what's your day-to-day life look like, and how does it, you know, connect with your music? What are your goals with the music project?
Yeah, they're kind of all sort of heading to one goal, which is my stated goal ever since I was a younger student in university, was to make space travel as easy as catching a bus. Like, that's kind of really what I want.
Wow.
And I'd love, you know, for you to actually just be able to jump on a bus, Michael, and be in space and experience it, and not have to mortgage your home to do so. So that's sort of the goal. And so my job at the moment is I'm a space investor and mentor and advisor to companies. So I help them, you know, actually build stuff for space, hardware that's going to fly into space and do things, and help them, you know, succeed. And I really enjoy kind of being a coach and a mentor. I think I enjoy teaching. So that's a really fun role for me. So that's sort of my main day job, if you like. And what I do while I'm waiting, to hear from companies or, waiting between calls is I play guitar. And
Mhm.
anyone listening, I have a whole row of guitars on the wall behind me here that Michael can see. And so I just, I sort of think about all of these things in context, and like I've never called myself a space musician, and I was actually think I was trying to not be a space musician. I was just trying to write music, but I tend to write a lot of music about space, whether I want to or not. So,
Mm.
but I think a kind of connecting theme for me, both on the space side and the music side, was why I wanted to do this making space as easy as catching a bus thing was I realized that just being like a NASA astronaut and flying one or two space shuttle missions wasn't the space future I wanted. I wanted one where all of humanity was there and represented, and we could all go up with our friends or our family and go there and come back and live and work in space just like we do on Earth. So it sort of became a bigger picture.
Mm.
And so it was a sense of it being space being for everyone. And I think this sort of sense of inclusivity is what I like to bring to my music as well, and to like tap into authentic feelings and emotions that people are feeling in life. And it doesn't have to be about space. It can just be relatable experiences of love and loss and grief and joy and happiness and adventure and fun. And so I just kind of enjoy the human aspect of space, and I enjoy the human aspect of my music.
Mm. Awesome. Okay, so what I'm hearing you say is that you'll like it or not, because of who you are, your songs, even though you're not intentionally like writing them to be about outer space, it's such a big part of who you are that naturally that comes through. Which I think makes a lot of sense. It's sort of like the wherever you go, there you are, sort of like phenomena. And so just you being authentic and sharing your music, it makes sense that you have those themes. And it sounds like, you don't necessarily have to be super, into space in order to appreciate the songs and relate with them. But I think that is something that's unique, because not a lot, I mean, I can't think of any other musicians that have sort of a character that's tied intimately with outer space and that have the same background that you have,
Yeah.
where they could actually write songs kind of connected to that. So I think it's a really cool way to sort of brand or sort of like theme, any unique characteristic what the music's about. Um, could you share maybe 1 to 3 of your songs, like your favorite songs that you feel like best represent the project, and maybe talk a little bit about what they're about and what inspired them?
Yeah, so I have a set of 3 actually that I'm working on that are kind of like my trilogy about my spaceflight, and I'm about to hopefully finish the third one soon. I've been perfecting the mix for a little longer than I should have been. But the 3 songs are kind of trying to tell the arc of my experience in space flying on the Blue Origin mission. And so the first one's called The Great Unknown, and it was about just the joy of going on this adventure and having had this dream my whole life. And and there's a music video online that I think has probably close to 5 million views now. So please check that out, The Great Unknown, Dr. Chrispy. It's an awesome video. Kind of an A-B some footage of a friend of mine's kid who looks a lot like me as younger me with the dream, and then me actually going. And so everyone's like, wow, where did you get this old footage of you from? The kid looks so much like me. It's amazing. And so that one is just the joy, right? It's just the pure joy of like, we're going on an adventure. The second one, Zero Gravity, which is the one I sent up on Ringo's broadcast, is more about looking down on Earth and reflecting and taking it in and seeing that actually the whole human race is down there below you. Everyone who's ever lived or died, loved, lost, they're all there. And there's no one behind me. The entire human race that's ever existed is in front of me. And that was a really profound thought. And so that was a song actually that was co-written. It was actually half of it was a gift. I told this story to some friends at a songwriting camp, and they actually started writing this song for me and gave me the first draft. And then together we finished it. I wrote the second verse and the bridge, and recorded the music for it and released it. So that was actually like a very beautiful gift from these 2 friends, Adrian and Lucia. So thank you guys if you're out there listening. And the third song is called Dreams Are Enough, which was really about it took me 27 years from deciding I wanted to go to space to actually doing it. And so this song is also taking me about 27 years to mix, it seems. But it's about actually getting there in the end and persevering and dealing with adversity and setbacks and delays and just space is really hard, man. And sometimes things happen and things get delayed, and sometimes it looked like it was never going to happen at all. And so this is just a song about having a dream and never giving up hope. And so that's the three bookends of my space journey.
That's awesome. And are those three songs all available right now on Spotify, or are they any of them still like unreleased?
So the third one hasn't come out yet. So just when I finish the mix, I will put it out. And the video's finished though, so we have an awesome music video that was animated actually by this awesome animator and art director Loic Zimmerman. So I have this awesome video. They're just waiting for me to ship them the final audio file. But the other two, Zero Gravity and The Great Unknown, are on YouTube and Spotify, and now iTunes, Apple Music.
Cool. That's a great story arc. A great story arc, and it has like an actual rooted experience that it came from. And to your point around people being able to appreciate it, and relate to it through their own life, certainly feels like all of us can relate to having a dream and then having to go through some period of struggle or ambition or time period to kind of get there until you finally like realize it. I mean, alongside those themes, I would love to hear you share a little bit more about your experience of having that dream, working for 27 plus years to like achieve that dream, and maybe what your advice would be for someone who's listening or watching this right now that like has a dream like this, whether it's related to music or it's related to anything that they are passionate about. What have you learned through that journey that you might share with someone for advice?
I think one of the things I learned is I seem to have a brain defect where I just don't take all of the negative data and decide that it's not going to work. Somehow I keep deluding myself into just keep trying. And I think that's a really amazing brain defect to have. So I don't know why, but I just kept chipping away at it. And I can't really say why, but I did, and I'm grateful. And so when I was 17, I actually applied to be an Air Force pilot in Australia, thinking that I could that seemed to me the traditional route to go to NASA, right? You become a pilot, maybe a fighter pilot, then you train to be a shuttle pilot, and then you fly a shuttle mission. So I had this 17-year-old business plan in my head of like, great, life plan. I'm going to become, go to the Australian Air Force, get transferred to America, become a NASA pilot, fly to a space shuttle. Went into the admissions test, everything was going great. And then they found out I was colorblind and they disqualified me. And I didn't know really that I was colorblind. Maybe I did, but it had never like clicked that. I do remember looking back and going, I couldn't tell blue from red pencils or just blue from purple pencils when I was a kid. But now I'm like, it makes sense. Anyway, they caught it. And so that was a setback. And I was like, that door closed. And so and by the way, that, that was in the late 1990s, right? Mid 1990s. These nation state programs were the only way to go to space. So the only door I had closed. Right, there was no path forward at that point. And so then I found this international space community, the one I mentioned earlier. I started, helping run these conferences for youth. So we would get together and we'd all commiserate about how none of us knew how to get to space, and it didn't seem like we were going to, but there had to be a way. And we just kept chipping away at it. And fast forward 27 years, many of my friends work now at these space companies like SpaceX and Blue Origin and Virgin Galactic, and they're building spaceships that can carry people. And so I flew almost 27 years to the day from me first trying to go to the Air Force and be a pilot. And I often think, well, what if I'd quit at 10? What if I'd quit then? What if I'd quit at 10? Or, humans like round numbers. What if I got to 25 years of working on this? I'm like, man, that's like a quarter of a century on this stupid dream. Why don't I just quit, right? Well, little did I know I would have been 2 years away from flying, right? And so I think it was just this stubborn willingness to just keep going. And so, my advice for people is if you've got a dream, maybe it's not going to happen right away. And if it's a big enough dream, is it worth waiting 27, 28, 29, 30, 50 years for? I don't know. But if you really believe in that dream, I'd say don't let anyone take it away from you. and just keep going, because it can happen. It just might take a long time. So just be prepared for a long ride, but don't get discouraged, and don't quit.
It's super inspiring. And yeah, I mean, it definitely seems like what you're describing around what almost like, I don't know if delusion is the right word for it, but like that faith or that belief, what you described as like a almost delusional sort of like belief that it's possible, and just to keep chipping away at it. And it certainly seems like every successful person that I've studied who's changed the world or done something revolutionary had to go through that phase where they were like almost delusional, or like, because you have to be in order to create something new that doesn't exist yet, to have crazy ideas.
Let's unpack that a little more, because I think it's super interesting,
Yeah.
right? So the people often say, "Oh, how did you find the strength?" Or how did you find the courage? Or how did you find the patience? And the answer is, I didn't. I didn't find any of those things, and didn't take strength or courage or patience to do this. It didn't take resilience. I mean, maybe some intrinsic resilience, but not actively, right? It was just more this passive resignation to, this is what I want, and I'm just going to wait, right? It was this real low-key kind of energy of just like, doesn't feel right. This is not the end. This is not the right path. Let's try again. And it wasn't even like tenaciousness or anything. It was just this kind of being in it, and it just being the thing. And it didn't take strength, because I was able to just somehow, turn off that critic. So there was no adversity. You know what I mean? Really, it was just this almost meditation, like, just gonna do it. I'm just gonna keep doing it. And so so it really does come from almost like a resignation to fate, and just going, I'm just gonna let it happen. It wasn't a fight, it was just a flow.
That's nice. I mean, that feels a lot more like it feels better to have something like that, as opposed to like fighting, kind of clawing your way and trying to do something that's kind of fighting against the flow.
Fighting for 25 years is tiring, right? I mean, that would be exhausting. And the only way to survive for 25 years is to be passive, right? To to be a rock, not a storm, right?
It's interesting. Yeah, I mean, it reminds me of sort of this like shift, or this metaphor around swimming along with the current as opposed to like fighting the current. And when you can, like you're describing, be passive or let go or kind of go along with it, then the river can be really powerful. It can like carve out the ground, but it does we can fight it and try to go one way, but when you let go, maybe counterintuitively, sometimes you can get better momentum through that, versus trying and efforting and trying to make something happen.
Yeah, exactly.
So basically, you became the river. You became the river, and then you went to outer space.
Yes.
The story of Dr. Chrispy.
Yes.
Cool. Okay, so I mean, and that's also, I know I personally feel inspired hearing stories like this, where it's like 28 years of in the making, and there's points during that story where it would have many people may have given up early, and like you mentioned, like 25 years into it, like it hadn't happened yet. So having a willingness to show up, and if you truly believe in something, then knowing that it's possible, and that even if like right now, today, it's not possible, maybe it's a matter of when. Curious if you have any recommendations for people who are kind of looking for that dream, or looking for that passion. And like for you, it feels like this was 28 years in the making, because you tapped into something that was very authentic, like as a passion, something that you were really excited about. What about someone who listens to us right now, who, they're a little bit like a discovery phase, and they're trying to figure out what are they here for and what are they passionate about? Do you have any thoughts or advice on how they kind of find that thing that they'd be willing to, stick to for that long?
Well, the first thing I'd ask is, does everyone need a thing? Right. I think a lot of people, and I know that my experience is not universal, right? There are definitely people who don't quite know what their thing is. And then there are, people like Morgan Freeman, who became a successful actor at 50. I think he was almost 50 when he did his first film.
Wow.
Right? His entire career and everything we know about Morgan Freeman as a famous actor and one of the world's greatest actors, he did in the last half of his life. Right? And so there are people who bloom late, and that's okay. And there are people who maybe their calling in life is to be kind, to be gentle, to be a good carer, to be a good partner. So we need, one of the things about me wanting to make space inclusive is if we really take humanity to space, it really does mean humanity, right? It's not a select few. It's not just scientists or mission specialists or engineers, and it's not just the elite. It is everyone. We need, doctors, dentists, plumbers, electricians, poets, writers, authors, singers, actors, and I hate to say it, we even need lawyers, right? So, we've got to take everyone to space. And so in the great sort of span of everything that humanity is, there's a role for everyone. It just might be subtle. And maybe they're already doing the thing. It just, a society doesn't always value all occupations equally or all vocations. But some people may already be doing the thing, but just haven't let themselves see it yet. And that's okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of wisdom there. What comes to mind is I'm not super familiar with the meaning of this word, but Dharma, I think, might describe it. Dharma is like a Buddhist concept that's about finding that grounding in your life and appreciating each moment to the fullest and being in alignment with, like, it's basically like the doing part of how you show up. And what I'm hearing you say is that, maybe what you're doing right now already has that capacity. It's just a matter of fully appreciating that and showing up fully to each moment.
Yeah. I just looked it up on Wikipedia as we were chatting, and the Dharma refers to an individual's moral responsibilities or duties, and the Dharma of a farmer differs from the Dharma of a soldier, and that's the headline on Wikipedia. And so that says everything, right? I mean, the Dharma of a stay-at-home parent is different than the Dharma of an astronaut, and both are valuable. And I think that's a beautiful way of summarizing what I was trying to say.
Cool. Well, this is a fun conversation. We're going to outer space in a few different domains, but kind of coming back to the music project and Dr. Chrispy. Could you share some of your musical influences? And if you, I don't know, let's say that you could go on tour with 3 of your favorite artists. Like, who are you most influenced by growing up that you feel like has come through in your music?
Well, I definitely loved computer game music, and I think for me, the computer and now more the music studio is kind of my creative tool. And so I've always loved synthesizers and stuff. So big influences would be like Jean-Michel Jarre and John Carpenter with some of his 80s film scores, and sort of basically like this synthwave vibe, right? Stranger Things soundtrack is awesome. Hear that, and I can't believe. Actually, by the way, today Stranger Things season 5 comes out.
I was just gonna say it's like later tonight
at 5 p.m. PST. Sorry, and no, this is not a Netflix ad. But just all this, really, I just find synthesizers. They allow you to find unique sounds that create new worlds. And if you think about like the score on Blade Runner, or particularly even the beautiful music on the second Blade Runner movie, right? Blade Runner 2049, just how sound can create a world. And so I love to just get inside a synthesizer, turn the knobs, and create a new sound that I've never heard before. and it speaks to me. It says something. It paints a picture, and then I find the lyrics that I want to sing to that kind of come out of it. So that's sort of my creative process. And yeah, I mean, who would I love to tour with? That's a great question. A couple of favorites that come to mind, like the band Empire of the Sun. I think they're super awesome. There's a whole bunch of synthwave artists like Midnight or FM85, Kaminsky, all the big sort of synthwave names. It'd be awesome to maybe one day even put together a synthwave and synthesizer focused music festival. Definitely there's a lot of great music out there
in outer space.
Yeah, and in outer space.
I have a feeling that if you're able to promise any artist that's alive and capable of making music today that you could bring them to outer space to do it, I don't think you would have a hard time finding people raising their hands to go on tour.
Probably not.
Yeah. That's kind of a pretty wild concept. I mean, do you think that within our lifetime that something like that will be possible, is like to actually play a show in outer space with a group of fans and artists? Let's say maybe like, how many, gosh, like 50 to 100 people in outer space playing a live show.
Oh yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah. No, I mean, one specific thing I'm trying to work on now is like, what is my next really, really big space project? And I think it's actually, I'm hoping to help build a space station of about that size. I think that'd be awesome. And so, I think, living in space, millions of people, that's a little far off still. And, we have the International Space Station, which only holds 10 people. I don't think that's big enough for a concert. So I think 150 people is about the right number. You could hold a conference there. You could hold a music event. You could hold a weekend-long event, anything cool. So a giant party. And that's starting to shift space to being more for people, right? And so I think about 150 is the right number. And so, yeah, let's do it. Let's have the world's first concert in space.
Okay. Dude, that's a really sweet idea. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I bet you could, any artist, I can imagine, at least I imagine, unless someone's like terrified of, I don't know, being in outer space. I can't imagine someone who wouldn't want to be at that show performing, and for it to, to be a massive event for humanity as a whole. Also a great networking opportunity for anyone that's there at that event. It's probably going to be a very cool, I mean, I love your vision and mission around making space inclusive, because, there's a lot of us on the world, and, when we improve things for everyone, when we raise the floor, it ultimately ends up benefiting everyone. But also, it does seem like it's helpful with new emerging technologies to have them funded, by people who are changing the world and able to invest large amounts of capital to make something that wasn't possible. So I'd imagine that the first show you ever play is probably going to be like some very, very influential people, in that room, which would make it, probably a really cool thing to be a part of, and people might, be willing to fundraise to spend a lot of money to be there. So yeah, I don't know if that's something that you had considered before, or if what that looks like with your space station, but like hosting a show and you performing at the show would be a really cool way to combine those two worlds.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I've thought about it a lot, but I haven't got to the point of ticketing prices yet, but let's see how much this thing costs.
It could be like, I don't know, like maybe like $50 for me, but then like, I don't know, millions of dollars or hundreds of millions of dollars for everyone else.
Yeah, that sounds fair.
Cool, man. Well, it's great to connect. I know, I've heard quite a bit about you from Bob, and he has glowing things to say, and I really respect Bob a lot, and anyone that he speaks about, like he talks about you, I know is probably a very glowing individual. So now having the opportunity to connect with you personally and hear more about your background, your music, what's driving you, it's been great to connect, and I appreciate you taking the space to be here on the podcast. And for anyone who's listening or watching this right now and they want to connect more with you or check out the music and follow you, what's the best place for them to go to connect?
Yeah, Instagram and most other socials on at Dr. Chrispy Music, and Chrispy spelled like the name Chris. I'm really great at SEO. No, just joking. So DR and then CHRISPY music. Yeah, so Chris with a PY on the end. Yeah, you can find me on all
and
socials.
we'll throw all the links in the show notes for easy access.
Awesome.
And
Thanks.
yeah, man, thank you for being here and looking forward to the first ever show in outer space.
Yeah, upwards and onwards.
Yeah.